What broke your friend who used to always see the good in people? When Chase was falsely accused of sending nudes to a freshman, his best friend Jack spent his entire spring break collecting witness statements. By the time school started again, the victim's brother had broken Jack's ribs, and his girlfriend had publicly dumped him for defending a predator. In response, Jack used his college application money, all $530, to hire a PI to prove Chase's innocence. The PI proved the messages came from a spoofed number, but by then, the damage was done. Jack's spot on the varsity team was gone, his locker had been spray-painted with pedophile enabler, and teachers looked at him like he was what's wrong with society. Even worse, Chase had a stress-induced heart episode after being kicked out of his home. Jack took him in with no hesitation. At first, Chase felt like he was ruining Jack's life. He was actually packing up to leave in the middle of the night when Jack's little sister Bella caught him. She walked over and placed her hand on his shoulder. "You're not what they said you were," she told him. "You've always been my second brother, and I'm proud to call you that." Chase broke down, and they stayed up for hours talking. By the morning, Chase knew that he was always welcome in their household. 3 months later, when Bella's 16th birthday approached, Jack pulled Chase aside. "Look, I know it's the same day as that SAT prep workshop you wanted to hit, but could you come to Bella's party? She thinks of you as a brother now. It would mean everything if you showed up." Chase didn't even hesitate. They both knew she was getting bullied, and if Chase wasn't there, her party would be empty. Chase immediately said, "Of course, man, she deserves to feel special for once." He promised he'd make it the best birthday ever. "Family comes first," Chase said, and Jack's eyes got watery. He tried to play it off, but everyone saw it. February 21st came fast. Bella spent all morning getting ready, the first time anyone had seen her wear makeup. By 2 p.m., Bella was sitting by the window in her purple dress, watching for cars to come into the driveway. Jack texted Chase, "Hey, party started 45 minutes ago." Read receipt popped up immediately, but no response. 20 minutes later, Chase pulled up with a gift bag, and Bella's whole face transformed. "You actually came," she kept saying, like she couldn't believe it. Chase helped her cut the cake, making her laugh with stupid jokes. Then Jack went to get more drinks from the garage freezer. When he came back, Chase and Bella had disappeared. "Where'd they go?" Jack asked me. I shrugged, but something felt off. Jack set the drinks down and started checking rooms. Bella's door was locked shut. Jack knocked. Nothing. BAM. He burst it open. Inside, Chase was sitting on Bella's bed with her legs draped over his. Bella's hand was on his boxers. Her birthday makeup was completely ruined, with mascara running down her face. "What the F are you doing?" Jack's voice was deadly quiet. Bella jumped up, furious. "Jack, get out. You're so embarrassing. This is why I have no friends, because you ruin everything." Chase stood up slowly. "Bro, she's 16. That's almost legal. We were just talking. Relax." Jack's fists clenched. "She's a child. She's my sister. You're 20. Bella screamed back. "I'm not a child. Chase is the only one who treats me like I'm mature. This is exactly what predators say." Chase stepped forward. "Predator? Bro, we were literally just talking about music. She was showing me her vinyls. You're making this weird, not me." "Just talking." Jack lost it. "I took you into my family. My mom worked herself sick feeding you. The one thing I asked was to make my sister feel special for her birthday. Not like this." Chase rolled his eyes. "You're so dramatic, dude. Nothing even happened." Chase stood up, adjusting his shirt like this was all beneath him. "She invited me in here. Not my fault that your sister's thirsty for attention." "Thirsty for attention?" Jack stepped into the room. "She's a child." Chase smirked. "Maybe if you didn't baby her so much, she wouldn't be throwing herself at the first guy who treats her like an adult." Bella tried to speak, but Jack cut her off. "Throwing herself? You groomed her. You've been living in our house for almost a year, watching her, learning her insecurities. Groomed her? Bro, I barely even notice she exists most days. Today she put on a dress and some makeup and suddenly wanted attention. That's on her, not me." Jack was shaking now. "Get out of my house." Bella was crying now, screaming that Jack destroyed the only good thing that ever happened to her. "Get your crap and get out of my house." Chase laughed. The sound cut through the room like broken glass, cold and sharp and wrong. Jack's whole body went rigid beside me, his fists turning white as he squeezed them tighter and tighter. I could see the muscles in his jaw working, his chest rising and falling faster with each breath. Chase kept laughing, this sick little chuckle that made my skin crawl. Jack took a step forward, and I knew what was coming before it happened. He moved so fast I barely saw it, just this blur of motion, as he grabbed Chase by the front of his shirt with both hands. The force of it lifted Chase clean off his feet before Jack slammed him back against the wall next to Bella's posters. The whole room shook, and a picture frame crashed to the floor, glass scattering across the carpet. Chase's head bounced off the drywall, but that smile never left his face. He just hung there in Jack's grip, looking down at him with this twisted enjoyment, like watching Jack lose it was exactly what he wanted. Bella started screaming behind us, this high-pitched wail that made my ears ring. I grabbed Jack's right arm and pulled hard, trying to break his grip on Chase's shirt. Jack's muscles were like steel cables under my hands, locked tight with rage. He shoved me back with his elbow, and I stumbled into Bella's desk, knocking over her lamp. But the movement made him step back just enough to let Chase's feet touch the ground again. Jack's finger pointed straight at Chase's face, shaking as he spoke through clenched teeth. He told Chase he had 5 minutes to pack his stuff and get out. Chase just straightened his shirt real slow, brushing off invisible dust like nothing had happened. He walked past us toward the door, actually whistling some tune I didn't recognize. Bella tried to rush after him, but Jack moved to block the doorway. Her hand came up fast, and the slap echoed through the room louder than Chase's laugh had been. Jack's head snapped to the side, and a red mark bloomed across his cheek. Bella pushed past him and ran down the hall, her purple dress fluttering behind her. The bathroom door slammed so hard the walls rattled, then we heard the lock click. Jack stood there for a second, his hand touching his cheek where she'd hit him. Then he turned and headed downstairs, taking them two at a time. I followed him into the kitchen where he stopped in front of the wall next to the fridge. His right fist pulled back and drove forward in one smooth motion. The drywall caved in with a crunch, leaving a perfect hole surrounded by cracks spreading out like a spider web. Jack pulled his hand out, and his knuckles were already bleeding, skin torn and raw. He slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, cradling his hand against his chest. Blood dripped onto his jeans, these dark spots spreading across the fabric. I grabbed some paper towels and pressed them against his knuckles, but he didn't even seem to notice. His eyes just stared at nothing, like he was somewhere else entirely. We sat there on the kitchen floor for what felt like forever, but was probably only 20 minutes. Then we heard footsteps on the stairs, slow and deliberate. Chase appeared in the doorway with just a backpack slung over one shoulder. He hadn't even bothered packing most of his stuff. All those clothes Jack's mom had bought him. The laptop Jack had let him use for school. Chase stopped at the front door and turned back to look at Jack. He said Bella had been begging for his attention for months, following him around the house, finding excuses to be alone with him. Jack started to get up, and I had to hold him back, both my arms wrapped around his chest. Chase just shrugged and walked out, leaving the door wide open behind him. The cold February air rushed in, making me shiver. Jack broke free from my grip and ran upstairs, taking the steps 3 at a time. He pounded on the bathroom door with his good hand, begging Bella to talk to him, to let him explain. She just screamed back that she hated him, over and over until her voice went hoarse. Each word hit Jack like a physical blow, making him flinch. I sat on the stairs feeling completely useless, watching my best friend fall apart. The house felt different now, like something had broken that could never be fixed. Hours passed with Jack sitting outside that bathroom door, talking to the wood like Bella might actually answer. I made him some sandwiches, but he wouldn't eat. The sun went down and the house got dark, but nobody turned on any lights. Around midnight, we heard a car pull into the driveway. Jack's mom came through the door looking exhausted from her double shift at the hospital. She saw Jack sitting in the hallway, and her face changed immediately. Jack told her everything in this flat, dead voice. Her face went white as paper, and she had to sit down right there in the hallway. Her hands shook as she pressed them against her mouth, trying to process that the boy she'd treated like a son had done this to her daughter. She kept saying Chase's name over and over, like she couldn't believe it. Around 2 in the morning, the bathroom lock finally clicked open. Bella came out with her eyes, so swollen she could barely see. Her makeup had left black streaks down her face that she hadn't even tried to wash off. She walked straight to her room without looking at anyone. Jack's mom reached out to hug her, but Bella twisted away and pushed past. The look on his mom's face when Bella were rejected, her made my chest hurt. She stood there with her arms still outstretched for a second before letting them drop. Jack tried to follow Bella, but his mom stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. They both knew Bella needed space, even though every instinct told them to go to her. The next morning came too fast. Jack's mom had to leave for her shift at 7, couldn't afford to miss another day. She knocked on Bella's door to say goodbye, but got no response. Jack called his school to say he was sick, his voice rough from not sleeping. He positioned himself outside Bella's room with a bowl of cereal and some orange juice on a tray. I called in sick to my classes too, couldn't leave Jack alone like this. We spent the morning trying to figure out what to do next, making lists of therapists and support groups on Jack's laptop. Every hour, Jack would knock on Bella's door and ask if she needed anything. Sometimes she'd yell at him to go away. Sometimes there was just silence. The silence was worse somehow. Jack grabbed his phone and started typing messages to everyone in our friend group about what Chase did. His thumbs moved so fast I thought he might crack the screen. Most people read the messages right away, but only a few responded. Tyler said Jack was probably jealous that Chase and Bella had a connection. Eric thought Jack was overreacting since Bella was 16 and old enough to make her own choices. That comment made Jack throw his phone across the room where it bounced off the couch. I picked it up and saw more messages coming in. Some people were taking Chase's side, saying Jack was being controlling. Others stayed silent, which felt just as bad. Jack's face turned red as he read each message. He kept clenching and unclenching his fists like he wanted to punch something. Then Chase posted on Instagram about being kicked out for no reason. The post had a black and white photo of him looking sad with a caption about how some people can't handle when their family members grow up. Comments started pouring in immediately. People who didn't know the whole story were calling Jack toxic and controlling. Some girl from Chase's work commented that she always knew Jack had issues. Bella must have seen it because we heard her crying again from her room. She started yelling that Jack ruined everything good in her life. Her voice cracked on the word everything. Jack pressed his palms against his eyes and took deep breaths. I told him we needed to document everything before Chase twisted the story more. Jack nodded, and we started taking screenshots of Chase's posts. We wrote down everything we remembered from the party. Jack's hands shook as he typed out the details about finding them in Bella's room. We saved every comment and message. I made a folder on my laptop and organized everything by date and time. Jack kept stopping to check on Bella, but she wouldn't answer. 3 days went by with Bella barely leaving her room. She only came out to use the bathroom and grab water. Jack's mom had to call out of work, which meant losing money they couldn't spare. She sat outside Bella's door for hours, just talking softly about nothing important. Sometimes Bella would turn her music up louder to drown her out. The songs were all ones Chase had shown her. Jack recognized the bands, and it made him sick. His mom tried bringing Bella's favorite foods, but the plates sat untouched. On the 4th day, I remembered the PI Jack had hired months ago to help Chase. I found his business card in Jack's desk drawer and called him. The PI agreed to meet us at a coffee shop that afternoon. He listened to our story without interrupting. Then he explained how predators work, how they pick vulnerable kids and slowly break down boundaries. He said Chase probably started grooming Bella the day he moved in. Jack's face went white as the PI described the patterns. The compliments about maturity, the special attention, the slow isolation from family. Everything Chase had done matched the textbook grooming process. The PI gave us resources and websites about recognizing predator behavior. Jack read every article on his phone during the drive home. His jaw got tighter with each paragraph. When we got back, Jack knocked on Bella's door and asked if they could talk. She finally opened it, but only to scream at him. She said he destroyed her life, and Chase was the only person who ever understood her. Jack tried to explain what grooming meant, but Bella wasn't ready to hear it. She grabbed a glass from her dresser and threw it at the wall. It shattered into 100 pieces. She slammed the door so hard the whole house shook. Jack stood there staring at the broken glass on the floor. His mom came running up the stairs and saw the mess. She got a broom and dustpan without saying anything. They cleaned up together in silence. The next Monday, Chase showed up at Bella's school. He was waiting by her locker even though he'd graduated 2 years ago. A teacher saw him and called security. They made him leave, but not before half the school saw him there. Kids started taking pictures and posting them online. Rumors spread fast about why Jack had kicked him out. Some said Chase and Bella were dating. Others said Jack caught them doing worse things. Bella came home from the school in tears and locked herself in her room again. That evening, I got a message from a girl named Sarah in Bella's grade. She said Chase had been messaging her too. She sent me screenshots of him asking for pictures and trying to get her to meet him secretly. Then another girl reached out with similar messages, and another. Within 2 hours, I had messages from 5 different girls. They all had the same pattern. Chase would compliment them, say they were mature for their age, then slowly push for more. I showed everything to Jack, and his face went dark. He realized Bella wasn't special to Chase at all. She was just one of many targets. Jack wanted to go to Chase's apartment right then, but I stopped him. We needed to be smart about this. Jack's mom called around and found a counselor who specialized in teen trauma. She scheduled an emergency appointment for Bella the next day, but when morning came, Bella refused to go. She said nothing happened, and everyone was being dramatic. She reminded us we all saw her hand on his boxers like that proved it was her choice. Jack's mom didn't force her, but she didn't cancel the appointment either. Instead, The counselor agreed to come to the house. She showed up that afternoon with a warm smile and introduced herself to Bella. She didn't push or ask questions about Chase. She just said she was available whenever Bella wanted to talk and left her business card on the kitchen counter. The second the counselor's car pulled away, Bella grabbed the card and ripped it into tiny pieces. She threw them in the trash and stormed back to her room. Jack's mom waited until Bella was gone, then carefully picked out each piece from the garbage. She sat at the kitchen table with tape and put the card back together. Her hands moved slowly and carefully, like she was handling something precious. She put the taped card in her wallet where Bella wouldn't find it. Jack watched his mom work, and I could see him aging in real time. The kid who used to laugh at everything now looked like he hadn't smiled in years. A week passed with Bella barely leaving her room, except to use the bathroom. That Thursday morning, she came downstairs with her phone in her hand and tears streaming down her face. She showed Jack the screen where messages from random numbers were calling her terrible names and saying disgusting things about what she did with Chase. Jack grabbed the phone and scrolled through dozens of messages, each one worse than the last. His face went white when he realized these were probably spoofed numbers, just like the ones that started this whole mess with Chase in the first place. Jack's mom took one look at the messages and called the phone company, but they said there was nothing they could do about spoofed numbers. I suggested we could at least monitor what was coming in, so we spent that afternoon setting up parental controls on Bella's phone. Bella went crazy when she found out what we were doing. She screamed that we were violating her privacy, just like everyone violates everything. And the way her voice cracked on that last word made it clear she was starting to understand something had been wrong with Chase, even if she couldn't say it out loud yet. Jack had to physically hold her back from throwing her phone at the wall while his mom changed all the settings. The next day, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw Chase had posted photos with some new girl who looked maybe 18 at most. She had braces and was wearing a community college sweatshirt in the pictures. Jack saw it too and immediately wanted to message her. But I grabbed his arm and reminded him what happened last time he tried to warn people about Chase. He still had scars on his ribs from where that kid's brother had kicked him. Jack put his phone down, but kept staring at the photo like he could somehow protect this girl through the screen. 3 days later, Bella must have seen the same photos, because we heard this awful wailing sound from upstairs. Jack's mom ran up and found Bella on her bedroom floor, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. She kept saying she wasn't special at all, that Chase had just used her like he used everyone. Jack's mom sat on the floor and pulled Bella into her lap, rocking her like she was 5 years old again. For the first time since the party, Bella didn't push her away. She just cried into her mom's shoulder for what felt like hours. Monday morning, the assistant principal called Jack's mom at work. The school had decided to issue a no trespass order against Chase after multiple reports about him hanging around campus. It wasn't much, but at least it meant Chase couldn't just show up at Bella's locker anymore. Jack actually slept through the night for the first time in weeks after hearing that news. That same week, 2 girls from Bella's school contacted Jack through Instagram. They sent him screenshots of messages Chase had sent them over the past few months. The messages all followed the same pattern. First, he'd tell them they were mature for their age. Then, he'd make them special playlists. Then, he'd start asking to meet up secretly. One girl said Chase had tried to get her to sneak out at night to meet him at the park. The other said he'd offered to pick her up from the school without her parents knowing. Jack showed me all the messages, and we both felt sick, realizing how many girls Chase had been targeting while living in Jack's house. Jack wanted to take everything to the police immediately, but his mom wasn't sure. She worried about putting Bella through a police investigation when nothing technically illegal had happened that they could prove. Chase had been careful to never explicitly cross certain lines in his messages. The frustration of knowing Chase would probably never face real consequences was eating Jack alive. He'd punch his bedroom wall at night just to have somewhere to put all that anger. School became impossible for Bella. Kids whispered when she walked by, and some even took pictures of her. She started having panic attacks in the hallways. The nurse called home 3 times in 1 week saying Bella needed to be picked up. Jack's mom had to leave work each time, and I could see the worry in her eyes about missing so much work. She'd already used up most of her sick days dealing with everything. Her boss was starting to make comments about her attendance. I started collecting all the evidence we had about Chase in one document. The screenshots from the girls, the dates and times he'd shown up at the school, the patterns in his messages. Jack wanted to post it all over social media and let everyone know what Chase really was, but I knew that could backfire legally. We could get sued for defamation even if everything was true. So we just kept building the file, adding new information as more girls came forward. The counselor started coming to the house twice a week. She'd just sit in the living room with her laptop, available if Bella wanted to talk. The first 2 visits, Bella completely ignored her. The third visit, Bella came downstairs and sat on the opposite end of the couch for about 5 minutes. She didn't say much, just asked why everyone thought she was stupid for trusting Chase. The counselor told her that trusting people wasn't stupid, that predators are really good at manipulation. Bella went back upstairs after that, but it was progress. The next morning, Jack's mom got a call from some woman asking if her daughter was safe dating Chase. Jack's mom spent 40 minutes on the phone telling her everything that happened at the party, and the woman started crying, saying she'd forbidden her daughter from seeing him immediately. We didn't know if the girl would actually listen, but at least someone was trying to protect their kid. That weekend, I was at their house when Bella came downstairs holding her phone and asked Jack if he could help her find new music. She'd deleted the whole playlist Chase made her and wanted stuff that wouldn't remind her of him. Jack almost lost it right there in the kitchen, but held it together and spent 3 hours showing her bands he liked. It was the first time since the party she'd asked him for anything normal, and we all knew it was huge. 4 weeks passed with small steps like that until the counselor came for another home visit. Bella was talking more during these sessions now, and that day she mentioned something that made Jack's mom go pale. She said Chase used to come into her room at night when everyone was sleeping just to talk about stuff. Jack stood up so fast his chair fell over and walked straight out to the garage where we heard him punch something hard. The counselor kept her voice steady and asked Bella more questions about these visits while Jack's mom held her hands together, so tight her knuckles went white. After Jack came back inside with bloody knuckles, the counselor started explaining how certain people pick vulnerable kids who feel lonely or misunderstood. She never said Chase's name, but talked about patterns and how these people test boundaries slowly over time. Bella kept insisting Chase actually cared about her, but her voice got quieter each time she said it. The counselor left some pamphlets about recognizing manipulation that Bella threw in the trash as soon as she left, but Jack's mom pulled them out later and put them in a drawer. 2 days later, Jack's mom found out from another parent that Chase was working at that burger place downtown where all the high school kids went after games. She called the manager right away, warning them about Chase, but without any charges filed, they said they couldn't fire him just for rumors. They promised to keep an eye on him, but we all knew that meant nothing. Jack wanted to go down there and handle it himself, but I reminded him that getting arrested wouldn't help Bella. The frustration was eating at him, and he started going to the gym at weird hours just to have somewhere to put all that anger. Bella slowly started coming to dinner again, though she'd just push food around her plate and wouldn't look at Jack. Her mom made all her favorite foods and never pushed her to talk, which seemed to help more than anything. I noticed Bella's progress report came home with 3 Fs and offered to help her catch up on homework. She agreed after her mom basically begged her, and we started meeting twice a week at their kitchen table. During these sessions, she'd sometimes mention feeling stupid for believing Chase when he said she was special, and I'd tell her that trusting people wasn't stupid. She'd work on her assignments while I helped with math problems, and sometimes she'd actually focus for 20 minutes straight. The PI Jack had hired months ago sent over a package of resources about grooming prevention and support groups for families dealing with this stuff. Jack's mom started attending online meetings every Tuesday night where other parents shared their stories and advice. She'd take notes during the calls and started implementing little things like leaving Bella's door open during the day and checking in without being obvious about it. 8 weeks after the party, Bella finally agreed to try actual therapy sessions instead of just the home visits. Jack drove her to the first appointment and waited in the parking lot playing games on his phone while she was inside. When she came out after an hour, she didn't say anything, but she looked less tense somehow. They stopped for ice cream on the way home, and she actually ate half of it. We thought things were getting better until that Thursday when Bella came running downstairs showing Jack her phone. Chase had found her on some old gaming platform they used to use and sent her a bunch of messages about how Jack was controlling her and their connection was real. The messages said Jack was jealous and trying to keep them apart because he couldn't handle that someone finally saw how special she was. Bella was shaking as she showed us, and Jack took screenshots of everything before blocking Chase on every platform we could think of. I helped him check all her social media and gaming accounts to make sure Chase couldn't reach her anywhere else. We found 2 more platforms where he'd already tried to add her and blocked those too. Jack's mom called the counselor that night, and they had an emergency session the next day where Bella admitted she'd almost responded to tell Chase to leave her alone. The counselor explained that any response would just encourage him to keep trying, and Bella seemed to understand even though she clearly wanted to tell him off. The whole thing set her back, and she stopped coming to dinner again for a week. The counselor came back for another home visit on Monday, and this time Bella actually sat with her for almost an hour in the living room. while Jack and his mom stayed in the kitchen pretending to do dishes. Bella kept picking at the couch cushion while she talked, and I could see her asking something that made the counselor lean forward and nod a lot. The counselor wrote something on a piece of paper and handed it to Bella, who read it over and over before folding it up and putting it in her pocket. Later that night, Bella told her mom she wanted to keep going to the sessions and asked if they could do twice a week instead of just once. Jack called the counselor's office the next morning to set up his own appointments because he couldn't sleep anymore and kept replaying every moment Chase lived with them, looking for signs he missed. His first session was that Thursday afternoon, and he sat in his car for 20 minutes before finally going inside. When he came out an hour later, his eyes were red, and he drove straight home without stopping for food like he usually did. The therapist had given him a whole packet about predatory behavior and how they pick families to target, and Jack spent that whole night reading it and taking notes. Meanwhile, the school principal called Jack's mom about new security measures they were putting in place after what happened with Chase showing up at Bella's locker. They installed a new check-in system at the front office where all visitors had to show ID and state their business before getting a visitor badge. The security guards started doing extra rounds during lunch and after school when kids were most vulnerable. Bella noticed the changes right away and told Jack it made her feel better, knowing Chase couldn't just walk into the building anymore. 3 weeks into her group therapy sessions, Bella met another girl who'd been through something similar with her stepdad's friend. They started sitting together during the sessions and then exchanging numbers to text between meetings. The girl invited Bella to get coffee after their session, and they spent 2 hours talking about everything except what brought them to therapy. Jack's mom saw them laughing at something on Bella's phone when she picked her up and started crying right there in the car because it was the first real laugh she'd heard from Bella in months. The other girl started coming over to their house to study and watch movies, and Bella actually started doing her homework again instead of just staring at her textbooks. Jack kept going to his therapy sessions every week and slowly stopped blaming himself for not seeing what Chase was doing. His therapist made him write down all the good things he did for Chase and all the ways Chase manipulated the situation to get access to Bella. It took Jack 6 sessions before he could say out loud that it wasn't his fault without his voice breaking. 3 months after the birthday party, Bella knocked on Jack's door one night and asked if they could talk. She sat on his bed and told him she understood now, that he was trying to protect her, even though she hated how he did it. She said she wasn't ready to completely forgive him for bursting in like that, but she knew he loved her, and that's why he reacted so strongly. Jack started crying, and Bella hugged him for the first time since everything happened, and they just sat there holding each other for a long time. The next week, Jack's mom got called into her boss's office and thought she was getting fired for all the time she'd missed, but instead, they offered her a supervisor position with better hours and a raise. The extra money meant they could keep paying for therapy without using the emergency savings, and she could actually be home for dinner most nights. The new schedule let her cook real meals again, instead of leaving money for takeout, and the family started eating together at the table like they used to. Bella decided she wanted to write Chase a letter to get all her feelings out, even though she'd never send it. Her counselor said it was a good idea and helped her plan what she wanted to say. Bella spent 3 days writing and rewriting it until she had 4 pages of everything she wanted to scream at him. The counselor came over that Saturday, and they all went to the backyard where she'd set up a small metal bucket. Bella read parts of the letter out loud while tears ran down her face, then lit it on fire and watched it burn while Jack and his mom held her hands. 2 weeks later, I was at the grocery store grabbing chips when I turned the corner and almost ran right into Chase. He smiled at me like we were old friends and asked how everyone was doing. I told him to stay away from the family and that everyone knew what he really was now. His face changed for just a second, and I saw real anger before he forced the smile back and said he didn't know what I was talking about. I said people at his job knew too, and his new girlfriend's parents knew, and soon everyone would know. He grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks and said, "I better watch what I said about him," then let go and walked away fast. I took pictures of the bruises and texted them to Jack in case we needed them later. Bella went back to the school the next Monday and stopped by the art room after her last class. Her old art teacher smiled huge when she saw her and said she'd been hoping Bella would come back. The teacher showed her the new project everyone was working on about finding your voice through mixed media. Bella signed up right away and started sketching ideas during lunch instead of hiding in the bathroom like she'd been doing. She worked on a collage using torn-up magazines and paint to show how she felt fractured, but was putting herself back together. The other kids in art club were nice to her and didn't ask why she'd been gone, which made it easier to focus on creating again. That same week, Jack got a letter from the community college saying he'd been accepted for the fall semester with a partial scholarship for his grades. His mom said he should go away to a 4-year school like he'd always planned, but Jack said he wanted to stay close to home. He told her family comes first, and he meant it this time in a real way, not the fake way Chase used to say it. His mom hugged him and said she was proud of him for everything he'd done to protect Bella, even when it cost him so much. 3 weeks later, one of the girls who'd messaged me about Chase started a group chat on Instagram and invited the other girls who'd come forward. They shared screenshots and talked about how he'd said the same exact things to each of them about being mature and special and different from other girls their age. The girl who started it asked if Bella wanted to join, but Bella said no at first and wouldn't even look at the invitation. Every few days they'd check in with her through me, and finally, after 2 months, Bella asked for the link. She spent hours reading through all their stories and crying, but also laughing at some of the stupid lines Chase had used on all of them. She started posting in there about her own experience, and the other girls were so supportive that she actually smiled for real for the first time in months. Around the same time, Bella finished her art project for the school contest about finding your voice after trauma. She'd been working on it for weeks, using torn magazines and paint to show herself broken, but rebuilding, and added audio clips of her own voice getting stronger. The day of the contest, she almost didn't go, but Jack drove her there and waited in the parking lot. When they called her name as the winner, she froze on stage for a second, then walked up to get the trophy with her hands shaking. Jack stood up in the back and clapped so loud that everyone turned to look, and even some kids who'd been talking crap about her before started clapping too. She held that trophy the whole ride home and kept it on her dresser where she could see it every morning. 6 months had passed since the birthday party, and the family had found their rhythm with weekly counseling sessions and family dinners where they actually talked. Bella still had days where she'd lock herself in her room and blast music, but she also had more days where she'd come downstairs and help her mom cook or watch movies with Jack. They'd learned to give her space when she needed it, but also to check in without pushing too hard. That summer, we found out Chase had moved 3 towns over after his job found out about everything, and his landlord kicked him out. Jack kept updating the file we'd made with new information from the support group and screenshots of him trying to contact Bella through fake accounts. The PI helped us send everything to the police department in his new town and to the high school nearby as a warning. A few weeks into the new school year, Bella noticed a freshman girl eating alone in the cafeteria, getting picked on by some older kids. She walked over and sat with her and started talking about art club and showing her around the school. The girl reminded me of Bella from before everything happened, and Bella must have seen it too because she started checking on her every day. Jack watched from across the cafeteria as Bella helped this girl find her place and made sure nobody messed with her. His mom decided to write a letter to the parent newsletter about recognizing grooming signs after talking to her therapist about it. She included warning signs she wished she'd known and resources for families dealing with similar situations. The school board approved it and sent it out to every family in the district. Over the next few weeks, she got dozens of emails from parents thanking her and sharing their own concerns about adults in their kids' lives. When Bella's 17th birthday came around, she didn't want a party at first, but her friends from art club and the support group convinced her to have a small get-together. 15 kids showed up with homemade cards and silly gifts, and they played music and ate pizza in the backyard. Bella hugged Jack in front of everyone and told him she loved him and thanked him for never giving up on her, even when she pushed him away and tried to hate him for protecting her. Looking back on everything now, I know we didn't get the justice we wanted with Chase never facing real consequences for what he did. The healing isn't complete either, because Bella still has nightmares sometimes, and Jack still blames himself for bringing Chase into their home. But the family is stronger now than they were before in some ways, and Bella is doing things we weren't sure would be possible 6 months ago. She's mentoring that freshman girl and winning art contests, and actually has real friends who care about her. Sometimes that's the best victory you can hope for when the system fails you, but your family doesn't. Man, that was such a good time sharing this little journey with you all. Appreciate you letting me bring a bit of excitement into your day. Until we meet again, subscribe for more content like this.